Hello, everybody. We are now here. This is When Calls to Heart Aftershow Spotlight Special. I am James Lott Jr. here on JLJ Media. And of course, I couldn't do it alone with my partner in all things Hardee's, Mr. Serafini.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Hardee's. Hello to our special guest today. I'm so excited.
Yes, you see who's here right now. You know, all the Hardee's know how I feel about her. So I'm so happy to have her join us on the show for the first time. I interviewed her several years ago at HRF. You know, it was in person, but now she's actually coming on our show. And we're very happy to have her on our show. You know who she plays. You know who she is. Pascale Hutton.
Hi.
Hey, girl.
Hi.
Welcome. So folks, come in the chat room. They're starting to come in now. So you guys come on in. Hit that like button while you're here. Subscribe to the channel because we do all the shows. I just want to tell you, my numbers came in for the week. And When Calls to Heart, all of our episodes are in the top 10. But you guys make this show such success for me on this show. I'm so happy that you guys love what we do. And we're happy to have you with us. And we want to thank all of our guests. We want to thank Brian Bird. We want to thank everybody at Hallmark and Crown Media. We love doing this show. We're Hardee's. We're Hardee's. Pascale, thanks for coming on. First of all, I just want to find out just over the last year, how are you and your family doing?
We're good. Yeah. I've got two little boys and we just kind of have been puttering along, like just kind of making it through the new normal. And, the boys are younger, so they're okay. They have each other and schools have remained open here. And so they have their regular school in person. And so they get to see their friends there. And some of their activities are still on with modifications. And so they're still in a stage of life where they really like hanging out with me and my husband. So they're okay. My friends who have teenagers and like early 20s have told me that that's a bit more challenging because they're supposed to be spreading their wings at that stage, getting away. And mine are still really happy to hang out with me. And so it's good. It's really good.
What is it like being in a house full of boys? You have a husband, two boys.
Yeah, that's a good question. I've never been asked that in an interview, but I grew up in a house with all girls. I had two sisters, my mom, and then my dad. So I always envisioned that I was going to have my own household of girls. And then when I started just having boys, more and more boys in my life, you know what? I love it. My boys are, any mother would say this about their kids, but my boys are just amazing human beings. Regardless of their gender, they're just really cool people. And I love hanging out with them. I will say, as a general observation between me and my boys and my friends who have girls, activity is high, energy is high in our house, but drama is quite low. So that works for me. I'm a high energy person. And so that system works for me. So it's all good.
No, Pascale, I'll tell you, I raised two girls. And Marisa's met one of them, of course, my daughters, who just had a baby. So I'm a grandpa.
Oh, congratulations. You're a grandpa.
I know. I'm like, how'd that happen?
Oh my gosh, you don't look old enough to be a grandpa.
Thank you, Pascale. I love you even more now. Thank you.
I still don't believe you're a grandpa, even though I've met your children.
Met the children, everything. She knows it's true. I had two girls, and there was high drama. But then I have now I know there is a difference. There's a difference in how they relate to you. And you were a girl, so and I was a boy, so I know it's just there's slightly differences in how the energy in a house will go. Like
but it's all good, and it's now, as on the side of being a mother, it's really all I know. So it's I don't have anything to compare it to. It's great. I love it. And my boys are really cuddly and loving. And so that would be sad if I had really wiggly, rambunctious boys who never wanted to give me a hug or a kiss. But my boys are quite cuddly. So so it's good. I get the high energy activity along with the cuddles. So that's the perfect combo.
Yeah. Well, enjoy it now, especially while you're still in, quarantine during this crazy time in the world where we're like forced to be indoors and be with our loved ones, and actually take this time to enjoy that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It goes by fast. I swear. I mean, I remember holding my baby, and now my baby had a baby. Like, it's the weirdest.
I know.
It goes by
Isn't that
so.
the craziest?
It's crazy. It's just like, because they're born. The first year, you try to keep them alive. You're just like, are they breathing? Are you okay? Are they breathing? You know how it is. Are they breathing? Are you okay? And then all of a sudden, they're 3 and they're talking and they're walking and they have personality. And then I mean, it just goes by incredibly fast. It's kind
Really
of
fast.
sad in a weird way, but it's also, that's how life is.
That's how life is.
That's how life is. What is it like being a working mom for you?
Yeah, it's busy. It's busy, but I don't claim to do it alone. I have a great support system. And so that was a must. Like, I know every marriage has its own kind of division of labor that works, but for us, it's always been we don't have really a division of labor of these are your jobs and these are my jobs. It's always been, because my schedule is unpredictable. Like, if I'm gone, you need to be able to pick up and keep the show going, and vice versa. Right. And so, I mean, that's great. It's great to have a partner that you just can rely on. And I'm not writing like 10 million to-do lists to remind him of, like, don't forget this activity and don't forget. I just can walk out and I know he's got it covered, and he can walk out and go to work and I've got it covered. And then, I mean, we also have family, and we have a nanny who is amazing and been with us for years. And so, so it like, we make it work, and it's busy, but I also think, this is a common thing that I think you hear from parents who have a job that they love is, my job does make me a better parent, because I do love my work. And so, and I have the added bonus of, I work really hard while we film the series. And then I have the luxury of taking the time off and being like really basically a full-time mom. And I love that. It's kind of, what is it? It's a balance of extremes, I guess. It's like working really hard, but then I get to be full-time at home. And that just works really well for our family and works really well for us. And, kids normalize whatever they're brought into. This has always been how it has been for my boys. And so, they just, they just roll with it. It doesn't faze them at all.
I love how you bring up parenting, because now I'm going to bring it into the show. We're now seeing Rosemary and Lee finally becoming foster parents. And after all these years of still questioning, can they bear children or not? So this might be like a double question, but like, will we ever find out that answer? And what is it now like to now play this parental role that we haven't seen yet from these two characters?
Yeah, I think it's unconventional, because it's not like a real parenting role, because Rachel doesn't really need parenting in the traditional definition. I mean, she's 18. She's back to what I was saying, is she's at that stage in her life where she's spreading her wings. And so she needs some guidance, but she doesn't need somebody like harboring over her and setting really strict boundaries, because she's at that stage where she kind of needs to be figuring things out herself. And so that's, I guess it's just a totally different dynamic than I think Rosemary and Lee ever thought of when they were talking about parenting. And I don't think they really think of themselves as parenting or even fostering Rachel. I think they think she's their niece who they can really help. And so without hesitation, we saw Rosemary was like, absolutely, we'll have her stay with us. And I think that's just their general approach. Rosemary and Lee have so much love to give, and that they're just willing to open their home and their lives to whomever needs their help at that moment. And at this moment, it's Rachel. And then back to what you were originally asking, which is, the burning question I feel like I've been answering for like, 3 seasons now. Right. Will they ever become parents? Will that ever kind of resolve itself? I think we're moving. I know how that's going to play out. but and I think we're moving in that direction, and that's about as concrete as I can give
We
you.
know, girl. We know.
It's just great.
Steve Hardy's. She can't tell. She can't tell anything. She can't. No spoilers. She can't. You're good, Pascale. You're good. You're good. You're like, that's it.
I always joke, but like on some seriousness, I'm like, Lee and Rosemary need to go back to Brookfield and adopt all the children, and then that's how they can become parents.
I thought when they originally had that, when they originally brought us there, I thought that that's how it was going to go.
We did too.
And then it didn't. And then it didn't. And so, yeah, I don't know. I can't really say much more about that.
Yes. Well, but going back to the When Hope Calls thing, we did the after show for that too, and we were like, oh, are you going to lead that direction? Because it makes kind of sense.
That would have seemed like a natural direction, but I think like things kind of ended up kind of morphing and changing with that show, and then also that show has been postponed indefinitely right now, and so obviously that just kind of puts an end to that potential storyline.
Right.
Was it cool to be the ones to go over? I think it was you guys and Nathan, right? They went over.
Us and Nathan, yeah. It was kind of crazy. It was what was really neat, which really had nothing to do with the story at all. What was really neat is by that point we were, so let's see, that was 2 years ago. So we had filmed season 6, I guess. So that's still fairly deep into a series, like very well established. And it was interesting to go from that and then go to a show that's so similar and, such a similar world. But them as a production with like the actors and the crew and all of it was still like fledgling. Like it was just brand new. They were like finding their legs. They were figuring things out. They were sorting out their production details. So it was just really neat to see that and experience that. And that was, I liked it. I liked that element quite a bit.
That's a rarity to play the same character on a different show. It just doesn't happen that often.
Yeah, I feel like it happened a lot more in the 80s and 90s and not so much now.
I agree. No, I agree. Yeah, no, I agree. So it's kind of fun. Like, oh, okay, you get to play your same characters. You just bring it to another show.
And one of the big debates was, I said, I need to still look like the same character. So like When Calls the Heart was on hiatus, so everything's like boxed up and shut down. But I said, I need to be wearing the same wardrobe. Like I can't suddenly show up in what's that place called? What's the town where When Hope Calls takes place? Is it Brookfield? Yeah. I knew it was a field. Brookfield. So I was like, Rosemary can't suddenly show up in Brookfield in like a new wardrobe. And so me and Barbara, who is our costume designer on When Calls the Heart, we went through and pulled a bunch of my pieces and I packed them up in a suitcase and I traveled with them so that I would have my same wardrobe so that it would transfer properly.
Right. Consistency.
Yeah. There's no point in having Lee and Rosemary show up if we're like totally unrecognizable characters.
That's true. And that's good on you, just knowing the technical aspects of what goes into production, because a lot of people will easily forget that.
Yeah. It's a little detail, right? But I felt like if the fans, I knew it was going to be all Hardys that were going to transfer over and watch that show. And so they would know that detail. I mean, you guys know that stuff is noticed. People notice the wardrobe, people notice the consistencies of the character. And so I felt like it would be disrespectful not to carry that forward.
Well, very true. We need Lee's plaid pants.
I know they have not really been.
I know.
This season.
That one scene where Jesse was wearing, there was that.
And he wasn't so happy about it.
So he wasn't having this. That was hilarious scene actually. But I'm like, where's his pants? Come on, folks.
I know.
Like crazy.
He's becoming more subdued in his mature age.
Oh, yes. But what was it, Marisa?
I would just say we love the plaid. That's like one of Lee's quirkiness that we love. When he came to the show, because we didn't really see that until Lee.
No, we didn't. And I was going to ask you, Pascale, so you guys are working, you and Kavan are working together so long now at this point. And you must really have a shorthand when it comes to acting choices. And you do movies outside, you do movies, you also do these. I mean, there must be a big shorthand. What are some of the things that are your shorthands you guys have that really work well together?
Well, what I would say is it's kind of generally a pretty big faux pas to ever give your fellow actor notes. When you're in a scene together, you just wouldn't do that. That's like stepping on their toes. Kavan and I give each other notes all the time. And we don't really beat around the bush about it anymore. And there's no ego involved. And so I trust him and his taste implicitly, and vice versa. So I can go up to him and I can say, you know what, it's actually funnier if you say the line like this, or out of the two options, because we'll sometimes rehearse the scenes before we're actually on set. And he'll say, oh, what do you think is better, this or this? And I'll just, oh, this is better for sure. Like, go this direction. Or sometimes I've been thinking about option 3. Why don't you give that a try and see if it works? And so, and he will do that to me. He'll often do that to me.
yeah. I don't believe that. Not you. No,
but I really trust his taste, and it's, and he's been working with me for so long, and I've been working with him for so long. I kind of know what's going to work we kind of know what's going to work for each other as well. And so sometimes he'll say, oh, I came up with this really funny bit, but I need you to kind of set me up for it. And I'll say, oh, okay, great. Then I'll say this line in this way. And then that sets you up for this joke that you want to play, or little things like that. And so I would say generally, no, I would never do that with another actor. It would probably not go well. But Kavan and I, there's just no pretense. There's no ego between the two of us. So we can just go through that really, really quickly. And we don't have to kind of mince words or be really diplomatic and careful. We just say it as it is. And sometimes he'll say an idea and I'll say, no, I don't think so. I don't agree with you. And I'm going to do it my way. And then he'll be like, oh, here she goes again. All right.
But I mean, the bottom line is you both want the scene to look well. You both want to look good. So
exactly. And we both always want to keep that Rosemary and Lee spark and that kind of chemistry alive. And the two of us are both really willing to play around, and we're both quite playful in the scenes. And so that it works out well. It's just a great dynamic. And it's something, I mean, definitely now after this many seasons, we do not take it for granted. We really appreciate what the two of us have and have created together, and know how rare it truly is. And so, yeah, it's just a delight. We love it. We love working together.
Well, we love seeing you together. And I think that we definitely see it on screen, especially I think more this season now, because there's a lot of slapsticky moments this season. With the suspenders and Rosemary falling out of the chair, that stuff was all written. Well, the suspenders thing, I don't think that was written into the script. That was Mike Roll. Now, Mike Roll is one of our directors, and he's been directing since, I think he came on in season 2, and he's been directing a few episodes every year. And he did improv and stand-up before he became a director. So he's always very good for me and Kavan, because he's always looking for those spots to insert that kind of slapsticky physical comedy, which I love. I'm always looking for those opportunities. And so it works out. He's great to, for the three of us to kind of play around with and bounce ideas around. And then also Peter DeLuise, who, obviously just comes from comedy. Yeah. And so he has a very particular timing and comedic sense. And so he has lots of really good ideas. And that chair bit was written in. It was written in, but when it was written in, it's just written in. You don't know logistically, how are we actually going to film this? Like, are we going to have a trick chair that's going to collapse? Like, how are we? And how I thought how he came up with filming that, where you really just see
Rosemary drop out of frame. You see you see the leg of the chair, you hear a crack, and then it close up on Pascale, on Rosemary's face, and then it's like boom. I thought that was so brilliant the way he filmed that. I thought it was really, really funny.
Yeah, we did too. We loved it.
Yeah. And the funny thing is to do that, I wasn't in a seated position. I was just standing. And then I just dropped into a low squat, like to drop down. They didn't have a crash pad underneath me where I was like actually falling onto a crash pad. I was just standing. And then they I think you can see like in the background, like, so the camera's here and you can see in the background, I think a lamp maybe that was on like a little side table. So they just raised that side table up so that I could be standing and it would still visually look like the same shot from the camera. And then I just boom, like dropped down. So yeah, it was really fun. It was good.
I love that. I love
tricks of the trade, folks. Tricks of the trade. Apple boxes, all kind of things.
That's right. That's what it was on. It was on Apple boxes.
Yeah, they do all the time. You don't see it. You don't know, but they do stuff like that.
Yeah.
Marisa and I know this because production.
Oh yeah, production. We love it. And I think also not just with the physical comedy, also the verbal comedy too, like stuff and all that. I think.
Yeah. I mean, I always like it when Rosemary gets fired up because nobody on the show quite gets fired up like Rosemary. She's a little spitfire when she's worked up about something, and I felt like it had been a while since we'd seen her really get fiery and feisty about something. And so I thought that was really funny that Lee was the one who really pushed her buttons.
Well, I saw this season though, you see a lot of, we're finding out Lee is not like Rosemary's the crazy wild one and Lee's the straight man. We're seeing a lot of Lee's quirks this season too. Like this season, like it's like a lot of times you're the straight woman, so to speak, to him. It's been fun to watch him, and especially with the back and the chair, everything. It's like we're seeing that he's a little quirky too.
Yeah, well, I mean, come on. He couldn't be totally straight and narrow and be with Rosemary. Like he would have to be a little bit quirky for her to get swept up and for him to like enjoy her quirkiness. So they're a perfect match, but I agree. We're seeing much more of that from Lee, which is really fun.
Now, also what we're seeing is, again, we're talking about the comedy side of stuff. You are so good dramatic also. Like you do such amazing dramatic work. Yes, no, seriously. It's like you can go from laughter to cry, I mean, just in seconds. And it's
Thank you.
I love it. There were some scenes you did with his sister. I forgot the name of the actress. Forgive me, folks.
Yeah, the character. Yes.
I've got her name, but she's great
Susanna.
too. She's like Susanna. And where there was that push and pull. We thought Susanna was okay with you guys, but when it came to her daughter, there was but the way Rosemary handled that.
I know. I really like that. I like that moment, and I liked how it played out because I thought that was such a testament to Rosemary's evolution as a human being, that she didn't just like fire back, like without even thinking. She was like, she bit her tongue and took her moment and went for a long walk, girl. It was dark when she came home.
You said that, like, where'd she go? Like, I was like, hello, like, where'd she go? And like, it would be the same thing. It's like, okay, girl.
But that's a real evolution of character, and that's what I've always been attracted to, is that the writers from season 1 to now, they've never wanted to have, the core of her has been the same, but they've never had her pegged as just one thing. Like, she's continued to evolve each season, which, I mean, when you're this many seasons in, you got to evolve. Like, it would be so boring for me, for the audience, for the show, if everybody was just staying stagnant. I think some people are having a hard time this season because I think we're seeing a lot more complexity in a lot of characters, and people making more complicated life choices. And I think people are having a hard time. I think the fans are having a hard time seeing, okay, hang on, this is not what we were. This isn't the Elizabeth we've always known. This isn't, but of course, how could it be? How could it be? Her situation is so different, so much more complicated. And I think that speaks for a lot, that truth is the same for a lot of characters, is, you know, their lives are more complicated. Life is more complicated now.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you about your character, Rosemary, this season, because we've seen in the past seasons, she's always like so full of confidence and so sure of herself. But this season, she seems a little lost.
Yeah, well, I think that that's it. And I think that that's what this journey is about, is going, I think a big part of it that's motivating it is going, I think in her mind, she's trying to make peace with the fact that she isn't becoming a mom as easily or in the manner that she had always thought that it was going to happen for them. And I think for a lot of people, when they start, like a lot of couples who go through infertility and decide not to pursue other options like adoption or fertility treatments, which obviously wouldn't have been an option for Rosemary at this time period, I think they start having to reassess their life choices and going, okay, so this huge thing that I thought was going to define my life isn't there anymore. So what is my new focus? What direction? What is giving my life fulfillment? And, you know, we've seen Rosemary, I mean, she's just not going to, her heyday of being an actor, that's never going to happen again in the same respect. Even if Lee ever gets it together and builds her this theater, it's never going to be the same as Broadway days. Like the theater scene in Hope Valley is never going to be the theater scene in New York. It's just not going to compare. So we've seen her kind of put that to rest or kind of resolve that in her mind. And then now this, and I think that's where she's at this season, just a bit lost and trying to figure out her focus and her what defines her life now. And I think that's pretty natural.
Yeah, I think it's very realistic because you see people all the time changing their careers and just trying to decide what are they going to do next in life. And I think it's that uncertainty of just, you know, what life brings you and where do you go next and finding your direction. And it can be kind of scary. And I think you're portraying it very well.
Oh, well, thanks. Yeah. I mean, I think for some people it happens with like an epiphany and then they go, oh my gosh, now I know I need to move in this direction now. But for other people, I think it starts with like a dissatisfaction of going, this doesn't fit anymore. This doesn't feel right anymore, but I haven't yet figured out what that new path is. And that takes some time. It doesn't always happen in like an epiphany. Right. And I think that's what we're seeing with Rosemary this season.
Right.
Yeah.
I love how Lee doesn't truly understand that yet, because especially the scene where Rosemary is writing her books of possible career choices. And
yeah, he keeps. Have you figured it out yet? What about now? What about now?
Doesn't work that fast.
But see, it's funny but Lee had a moment this season too where he was kind of like, I want to make a difference. I want to do something.
Yeah, he wants to make a change too, and so I think we're going to see that for Lee as well, where he's searching for a deeper meaning in his life, and so in the works, definitely for both of them are some big changes.
Yeah, I mean, makes sense, and you know, and that's relatable. I always say the show's relatable, even though it's set in a certain time period. They always have themes that are relatable to today, and that's something that
absolutely.
You guys have become like the heart couple of Hope Valley at this point. I mean,
we're definitely the longest lasting couple in Hope Valley, so that's a test-ament to the two of them.
You've never had any struggle that was huge. There were things that came up, but there was nothing that was like, there's no outside force, there's nothing like that ever. That's rare on TV. Like, this is rare on television to see that.
Yeah, so that's what that's what we've always said, is that no matter what life throws at Lee and Rosemary, they always have each other. Like, they really do have each other's back, and they're just such a tight unit, even though she's crazy and they've got each other, and they are a unit together. And so I feel like you could throw anything at them and they're gonna figure out their way together.
Absolutely. I love watching you two and just the two, you know, the couple on screen, because they are like so in lockstep. And when they do have a challenge, they are the adults and they talk it over with each other and resolve it together like a true couple would. And I think that's so healthy for every generation that's watching this show. We need like a perfect couple. And I say perfect, you know, loosely, but like a great example of what couples should do for each other.
Yeah. And, you know, I appreciate the fact that we see that sometimes the two of them need to kind of stew in their separate corners for a little while before they have clear enough minds to talk. I mean, who hasn't experienced that? I mean, that's just a reality of being married, is that sometimes you need some time to simmer down before a productive conversation can happen. And that we see that with the two of them.
And another thing you did just really good on One Calls to Heart, and what you're part of, the female friendships.
Yeah.
It's good to see the women come together, and especially you and Elizabeth, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just imagine from when you first came on to now. Like, that's such
I know. I know.
Come on. It's crazy. Who'd have thought? Who would have thought? But it sounds to me, so I want to ask you a question. What kind of friend do you think Rosemary is, well, in your opinion, as the actor?
I think Rosemary really has her friend, like, especially with relation to Elizabeth, because I think that's like first and foremost the main female friendship for Rosemary, but on the show even. And I think what you see with Rosemary is that she will always have Elizabeth's back. She's always been, more than anyone else, Team Elizabeth, like, where everybody's choosing sides, and Rosemary has always, I've got your back. I only have your best interests at heart. That's all I care about. I don't actually care about Lucas or Nathan. All I care about is you. And I think that I mean, is really powerful for Elizabeth, especially Elizabeth as a single mom, to know that she's got somebody who's just really rooting for her and in her corner. So that's first and foremost. But I also think Rosemary, I mean, come on, we all know this. She doesn't mince words. So she's just going to tell you the truth, even if the truth isn't exactly what you want to be hearing at that moment. She's going to tell you. And I think we've seen, as Rosemary's matured, she maybe picks her words a little bit more carefully than she did in season 1, 2, and 3. But but she still says it. She still says it. And that's important. That is an important quality in friendships, in relationships in general. If somebody's really going to be your person, whether that's your partner or your friend or whatever, they can't just be your yes person. They can't just be telling you that you're great all the time. That's not truth. That's not real. Real is when you can trust the person to tell you when you're out of line. And that's important.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you can't censor yourself. You can't be censor yourself. I mean, like, that's not a real friendship. I mean, they say
exactly.
Yes, whatever you say, it sounds great. It's like, but then when something goes down, why'd you tell me? Why'd you tell me?
Yeah.
I was like, it's like, because you can be a little bit objective, because when your friend's going through something, because you care about them, things a little more well-rounded. You're gonna go, okay, you're kind of spiraling down this direction, maybe I mean, look at that. I think it's great. And Elizabeth's going through a lot. I mean, you're watching her go through from the death of Jack to now these suitors. I mean, Rosemary's their front and center.
Yeah, exactly. And Rosemary will always be there, right by her, literally right beside her in the house next door.
Right, literally. Like, sir. But also you have, you kind of are a mentor to several of the young ladies, with Clara.
It's kind of ended up becoming that way, definitely, with Eva and Rachel. And I mean, because Rosemary, she's lived a life, like, she's lived a life, and she's pursued various ambitions, and she has, seen herself through, like, courting and then marriage and then being newlyweds. And so she does have some wisdom to share, and she will share it freely.
But also, do you think Rosemary has a little edge to her because you did come from the theater, the arts? I feel like she has a little edge to her. That's why you can tell these ladies, like, what's going on.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you got to have a bit of a tough skin to navigate the world of being an actor, I think. And so I think Rosemary does have a bit of a tough skin. And I mean, she's resilient. She just always bounces back. And I think she just assumes that everyone else is going to bounce back as easily as she does.
Well, you had that one line you had when you saw Christopher Hughes that me and Marisa loved. I think it was the one where she goes, I'm from Hollywood. I don't performance when I see one, or whatever. So whatever.
Yeah.
I love that line. I was just like, that's to me, that's Rosemary. She's she comes from other worlds. She comes from another world also. She's been out there. She's
Yeah.
not just small town, just been here their whole life. She's been elsewhere. So she can see when the characters come in and they see the savory or whatever they say or whatever, you sniff them out. I think Rosemary can sniff them out.
Yeah, I think so too.
That's also the loud noise over here. They're building a metro by my house, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, all of a sudden there was a loud noise.
You know what? I didn't hear anything. It didn't transfer.
Good. It's like, I was like, oh my God, everybody just looking at me going, why is he looking over there? I'm sorry, buddy. It's fine. Everything's fine.
I thought a bee flew into your room or something.
Oh, if that happens, I have to go.
He's anaphylactic. We can't have bees.
Yeah, I can't get stung. I cannot get.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so it would be a much bigger reaction if it was a bee.
Yes. But I love bees. I think we need bees. We need them, everybody. We need them. I mean, it's my
just
garden.
Not near you.
Not near me. Right. So when my garden, I say, fly over there. Butterflies come to me. Bees go over there. So I try to do that. So most actors, you get a job, you're done. Next job, done. Next job. You've been blessed with a hit series, kind of a little long term. Do you still have that nomadic spirit in you? Is it still in there somewhere? Are you looking to? Because I know you get to do other stuff outside the show, but like, is it still there?
A little less so. It all kind of happened at the same time, and it feels very serendipitous that it happened this way. But I started on When Calls the Heart when my oldest son was 3, I think. And he's now 10 and a half. So it just sort of, I ended up starting on When Calls the Heart at a time in my life where I was kind of settling down a bit more. And it was, everybody parents differently. For me and my style of parenting, having more of a settled life and a settled base felt right. And so the two things kind of happened in tandem. And so together, definitely the nomadic lifestyle and that desire for that change, and always it's quieted for sure for me. But it's part of that is part of the reason why Kavan and I created this new movie that we just filmed, that we filmed in Hawaii, was because the two of us were like, we need an adventure. Like, we need to do something that's an adventure. And so we were like, you know what, let's just create a movie that films somewhere else. And originally Hallmark had filmed a couple movies in Fiji at the time when we first started batting this idea around. We were like, they're doing movies in Fiji. Let's come up with our own movie in Fiji then. And then we ended up coming up with this one. And then things ended up kind of unfolding, and we found this production company in Hawaii that's amazing and was wonderful. And so that's how it ended up happening. But that, I think the reason that we kind of were pursuing that and coming up with it was because we kind of wanted that adventure. We wanted to shake things up and film with new people and new faces and new locations, and just have a little bit more unknownness to the experience.
Can you tell us anything about the movie yet? Or
it comes out on June 5th. It's called June 5th. It's called You Had Me At Aloha. And the idea was Kavan. So how it originated was we wanted to film a destination movie. And so Kavan just said, you come up with the character that you want to play, and I'll play the opposite. So what do you want to play? And at that time I was feeling like, I just really want to do almost like the polar opposite of Rosemary. Like, Rosemary is so vivacious, so spontaneous, so larger than life, that I wanted to play a character that was a bit more of a introvert, not a bit more, a lot more of an introvert, more self-conscious, more stiffer in everything that she did. So I came up with this character so she's now what it is she's a producer on a travel show, but she doesn't actually do any of the traveling. She's totally way, way, way behind the scenes. And she just does all the research for the travel show. And then they end up needing a new host for the show. And Kavan's character is this fly by the seat of his pants, doesn't plan anything, always up for an adventure. travel host on like YouTube or something. So they end up bringing him in, and she ends up having to work with him, and the two of them, just their whole approach to travel and life and creating a show is just completely opposite. And it's just like the two of them butting heads until, of course, you know, they learn to appreciate where each other comes from and what their approach brings and how it enhances the experience.
That sounds so fun. And I cannot wait. I was putting into my calendar the day, you know.
I just wrote down too. I'm like,
traveling movies, traveling shows are actually pretty fun. I mean, and you can learn a lot about people, just how you travel with them.
Oh, it's a huge eye opener. It's a huge eye opener. My dad and I, we went traveling. When I graduated from university, my dad took me on a backpacking trip through Southeast Asia. So we went to like Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam. And we were there for a month and a half or maybe 2 months. We were a long time. And holy cow, did I learn a lot about my dad. Like,
well, you're like, he's still alive. He's still this. He's still that. You guys survived the trip, right? You survived the trip.
Yeah. No, it was all good, but it's certainly, we saw each other in a different light when we came home. By the time we came home, our relationship had definitely grown.
She's being polite. It grew.
Yeah, she's doing right. Because, you know, it could be a whole planes, trains, and automobiles experience, or
yeah,
exactly, like the best thing ever. Because, you know, James and I, we traveled to Vancouver for HFR too. The very first time we ever traveled together, and we actually had a great time.
Oh, well, good, great travel partners.
But that doesn't always go like that for people.
No, it doesn't. No, there's some people that you're meant to be each other's lives in other areas. But
yeah, totally. It, you know, and actually the funny thing is, so Kavan and I went to Hawaii to do this trip, to do this show together, but we were also traveling together. And it is not the first time Kavan and I have traveled together. But this was a very long trip. We were there like for a month together. And Kavan loves traveling, and he's always up for an adventure, but he has a few quirks with the traveling that I was unaware of. He is obsessed with the weather, like always tracking it, following. I had no idea. In all these years working together, I don't know if I've ever heard him talk about the weather. And then we were on this trip, and it was, oh no, did you see it's going to rain from 2 until 4 today? I was like, yeah, we're in a tropical island. Like, yeah, it's gonna rain at some point today. Like, right. You gotta just let that go. We'll figure it out. It's gonna be fine. Yeah, he's like, I
can see that. I mean, I come from the Midwest, so I definitely have seen the extremes of weather and how it can actually affect like your day and your mind.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it did, but I was just like, really, there's nothing we can do about this. I think you just gotta like go with the flow. It's either going to be hot or it's going to be rainy. Like, it's going to be one of the two. We know.
Right. And that's right. You're coming from Ohio, where you have 4 seasons in one day sometimes. My Ohio.
Yeah.
It's like you just learn how to, like you say, you just learn how to dress. You just learn how to just dress in layers, or you just like,
that's right. That's right. That's the key always.
Right. Have an umbrella in the car, or not. It's always about just kind of like, you just know it's going to be different in 2 hours. Just be ready.
Yeah.
Really chocolate stuff. But I don't watch. Okay, so I'm not really a Hallmarky. I'm a Hardy.
Yeah.
But I always watch your films.
Oh, thank you.
I do. Actually, I do watch your films. I don't watch anybody else's that much, but I watch yours.
Well, this one I think you're gonna really like. I think it's really funny and really fun. There's some funny bits in it for sure.
Without spoiling too much, is this a more of a one-off with You Had Me At Aloha, or does it set it up for a possible sequel?
You know, it's always tricky. What do you do when, like, the first movie is always a bit of an oil and water kind of situation, right? And then what do you do when the two people have kind of figured that out?
Okay.
I will say, when Kavan and I originally conceived of this idea, it was always with the idea that we would do more than one of these. Okay. And I'm hopeful and optimistic that will be the case yet again. But we don't have a firm plan or an outline of what that would look like, what the next chapter for these characters would be. But I do think there is potential for sure.
Yeah, you have to make sure.
Well,
You have to make sure.
Yeah.
The Hardys will watch. The Hardys will watch. But I know what you mean. To make sure that it makes sense to come back. Let's make sure.
Yeah, exactly. Like some characters, like, so we did 2 of the movies, The Perfect Bride, and we had so much fun. But definitely, I felt like when the second one was done, I was like, we're done. Like that story is told. We've got to move on from that. And so, yeah, this one though, I don't totally feel like that. This one, I feel like there is more story that we could tell, and so we'll see.
Oh, so exciting. Well, I mean, I really want to thank you for coming on the show. I mean, you know, just for us, I mean, for me especially, I'm just like, I'm giddy as a schoolgirl. I'm just so happy to have you on here. You're always lovely to talk to. Marisa, you have any last things you want to?
Yeah, well, thank you for taking the time to speak to us, and we finally got you after all these years. Like, yes, we got Pascale. What would you like to say to the Hardys after all this?
You know, whenever I have the opportunity, my big thing is just a huge, huge, huge open-hearted thank you to all the Hardys. This show would not be where it is now without our fans. It just wouldn't. And that is the backbone of this show. And we love our fans. We love the Hardys. And we are always, always, always thinking about the fans and thinking about, you know, wanting to give them stories that are going to excite them and potentially infuriate them, but like make them feel, like make everybody feel. We always are thinking about the Hardys and wanting to give something that they're really going to feel something about and love. And so it's just a big thank you to our fans.
And we agree with you. The Hardys show
2 of which are right here with me.
We are fans. This show, it just, I always say it's like comfort food. It's just like something that I look forward to. And when we weren't sure if it was coming back and when it was, there was no Christmas movies, we're like, I really missed it. I was like, I missed the show. We
missed it too. I really missed having the Christmas episode, and I really hope that maybe next season we'll reintroduce that. I mean, I don't know. Nobody's told me, but that is my hope, because I really loved that. I loved doing the Christmas episode, and I also loved watching the Christmas episode on Christmas Day. I thought it was a really nice tradition, and I hope we're able to circle back around and come back to that.
Absolutely. And hopefully maybe a future HFR if that's.
Yeah.
I know. That's the other thing, right? I mean, the fan conventions have just really all been shelved. You know, people are trying to find a way to do it virtually, but you know, it's not the same. It's not the same experience. And so hopefully that, I don't know when that is going to be able to come back in any sort of safe capacity, but I know all of us would love to reconnect with all of our fans for sure.
Yeah. And thanks to everyone in the chat room, 121 people watching. Thank you, 121 on a Monday afternoon. Thank you very much. We totally appreciate that very, very much. Later on today at our regular time, we're having our after show where we're talking about the episode that just aired yesterday. So never fear, we will be back for that also, for sure. And again, thanks to Pascale Hutton for joining us. She plays Rosemary Coulter on the show. And her new movie on June 5th, You Had Me At Aloha.
It's a Saturday, everyone. It's a Saturday.
It's a Saturday. You can watch it. It's a Saturday. It's gonna be really good. So Marisa, tell people where they can find you on the social medias.
Everyone can follow me everywhere at Serafini TV.
And Pascale, where can they find you?
I gotta get this on the. I don't know. You type in Pascale Hutton, it'll come up. But I have a different handle for Instagram and Twitter, and I can never remember them. They're not simple. They're not like at Pascale Hutton, which is what I wish it was. But if you type my name in, it'll come up. I promise.
It will come up. And you can follow me. We're all James Lott Jr. is sold at James Lott Jr. on all social media platforms. And we thank you so much for joining us today. And please be safe. And we'll see you later on tonight. Bye, Hardys.